Dennis Wrigley Ministries, a better way, unity, renewal and healing.
I believe that today God is calling his people to sound the alarm. I believe that God is calling his people to speak out against injustice, against corruption, against the powers of darkness. I do not believe Christians are called to judge and to be negative. I do believe it is our task when we see injustice, to see that God is a God of justice. Now, how is this done? In biblical terms, it usually makes use of the trumpet. Now, trumpets are musical instruments, beautiful, and they make music. But in the Bible, we see trumpets used in a different way. They are blown to sound the alarm. How does this work out? Well, trumpets are called and are sounded to inform people in embattled cities of impending attack. Trumpets are sounded to assemble the people of the city to defend the ramparts and walls of where they live. Trumpets are sounded to announce the coming of the King. 3 functions: warning of impending danger, assembling the people to defend, and announcing the coming of the Lord. Does this in any way conflict with our concepts of peace, of silent waiting upon the Lord? No. Where there is injustice, we must break the deafening silence. Be it the injustice of poverty, corruption, assault upon children, anything which undermines goodness in our society. We must warn of the danger. I believe that when we read our Bibles thoroughly, we're given very clear guidance about how the trumpet is to be blown and when. To start with, Hosea chapter 8 and 1 says a pretty obvious thing: put the trumpet to your lips. If you don't, it won't be heard. That means today our voice must be heard in the land, speaking for truth and righteousness. Then if we look in the book of Judges, chapter 6, verse 34, we read, for example, in terms of Gideon, the Spirit of the Lord came upon Gideon and he blew a trumpet. In other words, God touched Gideon and moved him to take the trumpet to his lips and to blow. So if we listen to God, he will give us the words to proclaim. He will give us the strength to blow the trumpet in our culture. Then again, if we look at the book of Jeremiah, chapter 6, verse 1, when Jerusalem was under siege, the message went out to the people of God. Sound the trumpet, break the silence, give the warning. How does this relate to today? It relates to a real struggle which is taking place, for a real attack which is taking place in our culture now. The attack upon the family, the attack upon children, the attack upon human beings with drugs and everything which corrodes and robs of life. So therefore, if we are to understand what the Bible is saying, we've got to recognize that there is a real battle. So, again, what do we see in the Bible? In the book of Numbers, chapter 10, verse 9, these are the words we read. When you go into battle in your own land against the enemy who is oppressing you, sound a blast on the trumpet. In other words, you don't remain silent in battle. And in Old Testament terms, when the trumpet was blown, you are proclaiming the strength not of your army, but of Almighty God, who is victor. Then again, if we look in Joel chapter 2, verse 11, we see that the whole concept of blowing the trumpet is to sound the alarm, is to point to the immediate pressing danger. And this is what we read in Joel. Blow the trumpet in Zion. Sound the alarm on my holy hill. Let all who live in the land tremble, for the day of the Lord is coming. In other words, there's great urgency. We're not blowing this trumpet for the good of our health. There is an impending attack. There is impending warfare. There are impending casualties. We can't sit back and do nothing. So, leaders who do not speak out, leaders who do not blow the trumpet when they know the danger is there, are under the judgment of Almighty God. That makes me tremble in terms of the responsibility on the shoulders of the churches. In the history of the church, sometimes Christians have risen up against injustice and have defeated injustice. But there have been occasions when Christians have been silent. We've got to learn from history. But let's now look at 1 Corinthians 4, verse 8. This is what we read. If the trumpet does not sound a clear call, who will get ready for battle? We are not ready for battle in our churches today. We do not often recognize the severity of the attack which is coming upon us. We are not blowing the trumpet even when the enemy is at the gates. We are not assembling the defense. And this is what I believe is important to proclaim now. Namely, that God gives you the strength, the will, the power, the determination to blow that trumpet, to save the day. Now, we read this in Joshua chapter 6, verse 20. When the trumpets sounded, the people shouted. And at the shout of the trumpet, when the people gave a loud shout, the wall collapsed. I like that, don't you? This is what we must do today. The church is not a protest movement. The church is an army, militant in this world, triumphant in the world to come. If we grasp this, then we will soon discover that we have a responsibility today. When God calls us to speak, we must speak. And you know, in Isaiah 27, verse 13, we read, "In that day, a great trumpet will sound." And if we look carefully at the way the word trumpet is used, we will recognize that when it's sounded clearly, things happen. That's the message, I believe, running right through the Bible, Old and New Testament. And we read, for example, in Joshua 6, verse 20, when the trumpet sounded, the people shouted, and at the sound of the trumpet, when the people gave a loud shout, the walls collapsed. I like that. But to understand this, we've got to grasp the drama of the trumpet. Let's go back to Exodus chapter 19, verses 16 to 17. At the time of Moses, there's a need for a loud trumpet blast, obviously. This is what we read. On the morning of the third day, there was thunder and lightning, with a thick cloud over the mountain, and a very loud trumpet blast. Everyone in the camp trembled. Then Moses led the people out of the camp to meet God, and they stood at the foot of the mountain. Wow. Now do you understand the nature of the trumpet? It's something which brings people to life. It's something which wakens them from their slumber. Charles Wesley wrote a hymn, "Oh, for a trumpet call on all the world to cry." And I believe that this is what we are being demanded to do by God, commanded to do. We must break the silence. Where there is injustice, we must speak. This is one of the reasons why the Maranatha community years ago established its Trumpet Call network of Christians who are prepared to take action on important social issues. If you want to be part of them, let me know and we'll put you in touch. It's had an immense impact on the life of this nation. And you know, we're given the clearest possible indication in the Bible that the trumpet will ultimately sound the coming of the Lord. In 1 Thessalonians, we read, "The Lord himself will come down from heaven with the trumpet call of God." And in Matthew 24, we read, "He will send his angels with a loud trumpet call, and they will gather his elect." Have you got the message? If we remain silent in the face of injustice, I believe we're under the judgment of God. We must speak out for the millions of Christians persecuted all over the world. We must speak out for children living in poverty. We must speak out against the corruption of pornography. We must speak out for goodness and mercy in society. To blow the trumpet is not to condemn, it's to give hope. I repeat, the trumpet warns of the impending attack. The trumpet warns when the enemy is at the gates. And the trumpet assembles the people of God. And ultimately, the trumpet announces the coming of the Lord. I'm excited by this. May I venture to suggest that you might be too? Because when the trumpet is sounded, victories are won. When the trumpet is sounded, the church is seen, doing good, bringing light into the darkness, and defeating the enemy. God bless you.
Dennis Wrigley Ministries, a better way, unity, renewal, and healing. Thank you for watching.